Today, keeping mosquitoes out of your yard can turn into a subscription, a recurring service, a number that shows up every single month, all summer long. For a single professional spray, you might pay somewhere between $70 and $150. Sign up for a full season, and you're often looking at $300 to $700. For some properties, more. Now here is the strange part. The most powerful mosquito tool ever invented for the home is not a spray at all. It's a piece of mesh. And 150 years ago, people bought it by the square foot for pennies. Same problem, same insect, wildly different bill. So did people back then know something we forgot? Or are you paying that monthly fee for something the old method simply could not do? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the money goes. Let's start by making the problem real. Take away the spray truck, take away the plug-in devices, take away the app that lets you schedule a technician. Now it's just you, a warm evening, and an open window. Mosquitoes are not a small annoyance in history. They are one of the deadliest things humans have ever dealt with. Malaria, yellow fever, dengue. For most of human history, a mosquito coming through your window at night wasn't just itchy. It could be fatal. So people needed a solution, not a luxury, a survival tool, and for a long time, their options were bad. Before the 1870s, the main defense was almost comical. You kept the windows shut, even in brutal summer heat. Sometimes you'd tack a piece of loose cheesecloth over one window and hope for the best. That was it. Close the house, sweat through the night, or open up and let the fever in. That's the constraint people actually lived under. Cool air or protection. You couldn't have both. Then came the fix, and it's so ordinary today that you probably have it on every window in your house right now. The wire window screen. The idea showed up in the United States as early as the 1820s, as simple wire mesh over a frame. But the real turning point came later. By the 1870s, manufacturers started adapting industrial sieve mesh, the same kind of woven wire used to sift grain and sand, and turning it into cheap window covering. An 1873 advertisement promised screens made the difference between absolute misery and sweetest comfort. And in 1874, a company in Detroit did the thing that changed everything. They started selling screen mesh by the square foot. Think about what that means. You no longer needed a custom-built, expensive fitted frame. You bought a chunk of mesh size to your window for pennies and put it up yourself. Insect protection went from a luxury item to something almost any household could afford. So why did a simple net beat everything that came before it? Let's look at why it actually worked. A mosquito is not strong, it's not clever. It navigates toward you using heat, moisture, and the carbon dioxide you breathe out. It follows that trail straight to your skin. A screen doesn't poison it, it doesn't repel it, it just puts a physical wall in the path. The holes in the mesh are smaller than the mosquito's body, so the trail leads it right into a barrier it can't pass. No chemistry, no electricity, no refills, just geometry. And that's the quiet genius of it. A spray has to be reapplied. A repellent wears off. A trap has to attract. But a screen works the same way at midnight in year 1 as it does in year 10. It's a permanent answer to a nightly problem. There's more. Screens don't just block one insect. They block flies, moths, wasps, most of the flying pests that used to pour into a lit house at night. One installation. Many problems solved at once. Loisa disse l'oresto les antigüeta, no te intrapis de l'ondea tirtes. Oma somos que no li portales contron. Oce yo sabise que en al mere di loritaes, Omonestoviaro i mostenaveranno piexio dualiro, in porches in no premorio estemo mepem. Selling mesh by the square foot was cheap, but cheap in the 1870s is not the same as free. You paid for the mesh, you paid for a frame, or you built one, and someone had to cut it, fit it, and mount it. That someone was usually you. The low price hid your own unpaid labor. Screens also don't last forever. They rust, they tear, they sag. A poorly fitted screen with a gap in the corner is an open door with extra steps, and a screen only protects the inside of your house. Step out onto the porch on a summer evening, and the mesh does nothing for you at all. So the honest version of the old method is this: very low material cost, real physical labor, ongoing small repairs, and zero protection the moment you walk outdoors. Hold on to that last part, because it's the key to the whole mystery. Now let's open up that modern monthly bill and see what you're actually paying for. When a company sprays your yard, you are not really buying the chemical. The active ingredient is a tiny fraction of the cost. You're paying for something the screen never even attempted to do. You're paying for the outdoors. A barrier spray coats the shady, damp places where mosquitoes rest, under leaves, along fences, in the dense parts of the garden. It's trying to protect your entire yard, so you can host a barbecue, sit on the deck, let the kids run around at dusk. A screen protects a room. The service is trying to protect open air. And that's expensive. Break the bill apart and you'll find labor, because a trained technician has to walk the property. Transportation, because a truck has to drive to you. Equipment and professional-grade product. Licensing and regulation, because spraying pesticide near homes, pets, and pollinators is controlled by law. And repetition, because the effect fades. The spray breaks down in sun and rain, mosquitoes breed on a fast cycle, and new ones simply fly in from next door. That's why it's a subscription. Not because someone is hiding a secret, because the thing you're protecting, the open outdoors, refuses to stay protected. The screen wins forever because a wall doesn't wear off. The spray needs renewing because the yard is never really sealed. So here's the part most people get wrong. The instinct is to watch this and think, see, the old way was smarter and cheaper, and modern services are a rip-off. But that's not the honest conclusion. The screen and the spray are not competitors. They solve different halves of the same problem. The screen owns the indoors, cheaply and permanently. The service owns the outdoors, at a recurring cost, because the outdoors can't be walled off. Comparing the price of one to the other is like comparing the cost of a lock to the cost of a security guard. Different jobs. Let's put them side by side, fairly. On upfront cost, the screen wins easily. Cheap material, one-time install. On labor, the screen needs your hands once, plus small repairs. The service needs no labor from you, ever. On durability, the screen lasts years. The spray lasts weeks. On coverage, they flip completely. The screen protects a sealed room and nothing outside it. The service protects the open yard and nothing sealed. On effectiveness against disease, keeping mosquitoes out of where you sleep is enormously powerful. In fact, widespread window screens are credited as one of the reasons malaria was nearly wiped out in American homes by the mid-20th century, long before anyone was buying a monthly yard treatment. Read that again. The cheap piece of mesh may have done more for public health than any spray plan ever will, but it did it inside the house, which is exactly where its power ends. So what actually makes sense today? Start with the old principle, because it still works and it's absurdly cheap. Good screens on every window and door. No gaps. That single step handles the highest stakes location where you sleep and breathe for 8 hours a night for almost nothing. It's the highest value mosquito defense you can buy, and it's over a century old. Then remove standing water. A bottle cap of water can breed mosquitoes. Empty the buckets, the plant saucers, the clogged gutters, the forgotten bird bath. This is the other half of the old wisdom, and it's still the single most effective free thing you can do. The paid service earns its price in one specific situation. When you genuinely need to use the outdoors, a big outdoor event, a yard backing onto wetland, a region where mosquito-borne disease is a real threat. That's when you're buying something a screen physically cannot give you. Not a scam, a different product. So let's put the whole thing back together. The old method was a piece of wire mesh, sold by the square foot, that quietly became one of the most important health tools in history. It won because it's a permanent wall against a weak insect, and walls don't wear off. The modern service costs more because it's attempting something harder, protecting open air with labor, trucks, regulation, and product that fades and has to be renewed. The cheap old method still wins indoors, it always did, and the expensive modern one wins outdoors when you truly need the outdoors, because that's the one place the old wall could never reach. Screen your windows for pennies, dump your standing water for free, and pay for the yard service only when you're buying the one thing a screen never could. And this same pattern, a cheap old barrier quietly beating an expensive modern service, shows up somewhere even more surprising. In how people kept their food cold, safe, and edible for weeks, long before a refrigerator ever hummed in the corner of a kitchen.